Last words are important. What people say at the end. And some of the last words of Jesus before he went back to heaven were this. Then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Well, we're still in that age. He's still with us. So that command is still valid. It's still there. We're still in that time of going and making disciples. On that basis, it is extremely likely that a number of people sitting here today have a call of God on their lives to go somewhere else to make disciples. And like all calls of God, they take time to grow and develop. Or it may be you've become aware of it and thought, no, that's for somebody else. You know, like Moses, here am I, send Aaron. So today what we're going to do is we're going to have a panel that originally was supposed to be Stephen Jackson, Emma Lewis, and Leslie McKnight, but Emma unfortunately is unwell and couldn't join us. So at the last minute, Hugh Nelson is going to pretend to be Emma and stepped in last night and ruined his dinner as he had to suddenly go through a bunch of questions we have. So we're going to explore what it means to go into cross-cultural mission to serve somewhere else, what that decision feels like, what the process is, hopefully to help you consider, actually, is there a call of God on my life to be part of this? So let's have them up first. On you come. And to make sure they're reasonably prepared, I did send them the questions in advance. And we'll see how the time goes, how many of them we'll get through. So thank you. And actually, all of these people serving in cultures where what we're doing today just doesn't happen. You can't walk down the street and find a church where you can sit in and worship God consistently. It's just not there. So that's the sort of thing we want to explore. So first of all, let's start with you at the end. Tell us where you're at in your journey to bring God's love to people in a different culture and country. Where are you at this point?
Okay, so we live in Japan, and been there for 30 years. Currently we're pastoring two churches, one in Nirayama, which from about 20 years ago, and then 6 years ago we moved to Heda as well, to take on that. Just with the vision, as Myles says, there's not many churches, hardly any believers, just to see more people on the Izu Peninsula have a chance to hear what you do.
Okay, good. Thank you. Stephen.
So I'm in Moldova, and I've been there for nearly a year now. And I'm focusing on ministry with students, so that's ministry to Moldovan students, but also there are a fair number of international students in the capital as well. So a lot of those come from places where Christianity is pretty rare, and they've come to a country like Moldova where there are more Christians, and we're trying to use that time to tell them about Jesus.
We have been serving out in Papua New Guinea for 21 years, home for a year of home assignment, and out there, Paul is working in our school, mission school there, and I've been working in a medical clinic on the same base. We've got about 60 houses, it's our headquarters, and that's allowed me to work both with missionaries and with local residents there too. And we're home with our eldest son, hoping to settle him into university, and just helping our elderly parents who are in their 80s now, and just sort of seeing what God has, in terms of what they need for support. And just looking forward to just time at home after being on the field for 3 years.
The mission you're with is reaching out to tribal communities in Papua New Guinea who had never even heard the word of the name Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Very remote. Yeah.
Thank you. In our own situation, Phyllis and I started in supported mission 50 years ago next January. It's hard to believe, half a century. In that time, we have lived outside Northern Ireland for about 15 years. For most of the last 30 years, basically it was helping mission organizations around the world understand biblically and practically what it meant to have their staff live on a supported basis. So it was flying on airplanes far too much. A couple of years ago, stepped aside quite a bit and now mentor people, the next generation down, doing the things that I was doing for a long time. Okay, whoever wants to pick this up can start. What caused you to consider serving in cross-cultural mission? What were the steps in this process, and what mixture of the ordinary and extraordinary has God used in your decision?
Sure, I'll start. So it was an interesting series of events that I didn't really expect to lead to me moving permanently abroad. It was just visiting Moldova for increasing periods of time. So the first time back in 2018, when I just wanted to see what mission abroad meant. And the second time was a couple of years ago. I'd already started learning Romanian the first time I visited, so I thought this will be a good chance to brush up my Romanian, try and become fluent, and then serve Romanians here and Moldovans. And then that's when I got involved with the student movement, and they kind of invited me to come back for a longer period of time, which was last year, which I expected, again, to be a temporary year-long thing, but it's turned out not to be.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, Hugh?
So I was studying architecture at Queen's. One of the projects we were doing was to design a house of worship. And I'm using traditional Japanese design imagery in doing that project, and just really got interested in the art and the culture. But there was a great satisfaction with architecture as a career, and thinking about going overseas, and thinking about full-time Christian mission work. And it took quite a while for God to weave these different threads together and bring it to a point where I said, yeah, this is what it's asking me to do.
Good, thank you.
So I grew up in a family that had really rich sort of heritage of mission. My grandfather served in British Guiana, and several other great aunts and uncles. Not that I'd known them personally, but I heard lots of stories as I grew up. And I think just always had just a real interest in missions, loved to read biographies and autobiographies of missionaries and be involved in that. And I think when I was about 12, I really sensed God just giving me a sense that I would one day work overseas. And I never knew exactly how that was, but as I chose what to study at university, I decided to choose physio so that I would be able to use it wherever God would have me. And after I qualified, I went to Edinburgh and just got involved in a church that really was, I felt like I was a strong Christian, but the church really taught me a lot of foundations of my faith and made that clearer to me. And that was just a real growing time in that. And as Paul and I got together, just so thankful that he gave me a husband that was just equally wanting to serve him overseas. And the Lord really opened up an opportunity for us to go on a short-term team that just opened our eyes to what it was like, even in support work, that there were so many options on the field. And as we pursued what God would have for us, we thought, I'm sure he'll have us out there within a year or two of qualifying. But actually, the Lord kept us in the UK for about 6 years. And in hindsight, that was really good for us to learn how to work as a physiotherapist, how to work as a teacher, and just to get more experience in that. And the Lord just opened up opportunities. Then when we got married, just really people that he put in our lives that, as we explored where he would have us, he just opened up, conversations that helped us to find out that there was a need for a PE teacher and a physiotherapist on a base in Papua New Guinea. We were like, where's Papua New Guinea? But yeah, I think it was more of the ordinary than the extraordinary, just one step at a time. And the extraordinary was probably the people that God put in our path at the right time, those conversations that we had, and just that sense that there was lots of opportunities put in front of us, things that we were told, oh, you could do this, you could do this. And we just it didn't sit with us. We just knew that some of those things were just not what God had for us. But whenever that we were told there was a need in Papua New Guinea, both of us just had a real sense of peace. Almost immediately, this is where God has for us.
Good. Thank you. You notice within that there was, an interest in a geographical area because of some work that was done. Here it was when the geographical area came up as, where is that on the map? So God uses different processes to awaken whatever call is sitting on your shoulders right now. Stephen, you went out first of all for a year with the kind of the general thought, I'll probably come back to the UK, get stuck into software development again. But that's switched, and you're now going back indefinitely. What caused that switch?
Yeah, there are probably a few aspects to that. I'd say the biggest one is that what I saw in what I was doing over the last year brought together a lot of things that I'd experienced in the kind of 5-7 years before that. So with being involved in an international cafe in university, where we had a couple of hours a week where international students would come just to hang out, practice their English. We had an optional Bible study. And then living for 4 years in Manchester, where I was in a very Muslim area, and I was in a church that was trying to reach out to those Muslims. And then obviously with learning Romanian from being in Moldova for the first time in 2018. And so you see those three things, which were quite big parts of my life, and suddenly have come together in Moldova, reaching out to international students, a lot of whom are Muslims. And so I saw this kind of combining and thought, maybe God has been doing something here.
Yeah.
So that's
good.
probably the main thing that made me feel, actually, God's called me to this.
Yeah, good, thank you. What you'll find is certainly between Phyllis and I too, that it's only after you take some of the steps you look back and say, oh, that's what that was about. And you don't always see it when you're in the middle of it. So if you're in the middle of it, if you begin to think it through, don't worry, just keep pursuing it. It doesn't always happen as quickly as you'd like or think, but in the end you will look back and think, that's why God put me there. That's why he gave me that friend or whatever. So good. For all of you, I'm going to start, Leslie, with you in this. From your experiences so far, whether long or short, what's the main benefit you have experienced personally or as a family as a result of serving in a different culture? What's the one thing you think, this has been something that we've appreciated?
I think seeing God's provision has been just amazing for us as a family. I think in the 21 years we've served out there, there's never been a need that we've had as a family that has not been fulfilled. And of course, there's things we've wanted that maybe we haven't had, but really God has provided over and above anything that we could have imagined, especially giving up jobs before we went out. Our parents especially were pretty nervous on that. Yeah, and I think our kids, growing up in that cross-cultural scenario has been such a blessing. And that again has been something that our families, were quite nervous, what are you doing? Our grandkids, they're not going to have that normal education, and yet it has been so rich for them, and I think has actually put them in a place now where they really understand lots of different cultures and living in an international community. And I think, they've had, more than anything, have a big picture of what God can do. We all have seen God working and answering prayers in an undeniable way. And that has been just such a blessing.
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, when you go to school in Papua New Guinea instead of in Bangor Grammar, the world is a bigger place. So that's a great benefit there. Here.
Something similar, that sense of God being bigger than I'd previously experienced, just seeing him answer prayer, seeing him move in people's lives. And not just locally, because it gives you a connection to a worldwide community as well. With other people in World Horizons in our mission, just seeing what God is doing with them as well. And it's just mind-blowing at times. You know, stuff happens that this has to be God. There's no way we could do it ourselves.
Yeah. Good. Stephen, your experience has been shorter so far, but anything you think, if it ended now, that's how I've changed, that's a positive for me?
I think in some way I've felt like, in an unexpected way, the last year has been quite spiritually wholesome for me. And I think that's got something to do with whenever you move abroad, especially into a place where they speak a different language, the culture is very different, things just kind of drop out of your life unless you intentionally hold on to them. And some of those things are good things that you do need to intentionally hold on to. Some of them are things that have just been distracting you and taking up your time that you don't really need. And so I found that with, you know, I guess watching TV less, probably reading novels less, maybe even playing piano less. I mean, playing piano is great, but I probably played piano quite a lot. I just found that I've got a lot more time for just focusing on God, spending more time in prayer, thinking about how I can use life intentionally to serve Him.
Okay, good. Thank you. The flip side of that, what is it that you've missed, or what's been the downside of serving away from family, away from your home culture for so long? And has that been worth it? And if so, why? Hugh, you're taking that first.
Cheese.
Cheese.
There's not much cheese in Japan, but seriously, real deep fellowship with other believers, particularly at the beginning, just having that opportunity to meet with people who understand you and you understand them, and having that closeness, that's quite difficult. But it does change over time, and we do have good Japanese friends and have experienced that as time has gone on. So God is no one's debtor. He does fill in the gaps for you as you go along. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Leslie.
I mean, I would say seafood. That's what I meant.
Seafood.
No, probably for us, like the kids, like being away from parents and grandparents, like that has probably been the hardest thing. Definitely was difficult, like to not have family close or not be able to be there when family needed us back at home. But has it been worth it? I think, yeah, the Lord has undertaken, not only for us in that circumstance, but for our parents too, and our wider family. And yeah, I think that for them, for our parents, like who had a hard time seeing us giving up our jobs to go, and wondering, were they the ones that were going to have to pick up the pieces? They have all grown in their faith, and we've seen them recognizing how God has supplied our needs, and that has strengthened each of their faith as well. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. I want to give us one story, a short story of how you've seen God use you to make a difference in the life of someone who might not have experienced God's love if you hadn't been there. Stephen.
Sure. So I'll tell you a story about a young man called Andre, who lives not in the capital, but in a city, maybe, I don't know, an hour's drive away. And he's from a church background which is very strict, very legalistic, and he doesn't really seem to have any good close friends there. It doesn't seem to have a good relationship with the pastor. And I got to know him because he visited the capital at some point back in autumn. And for some reason, he opened up to me. He felt comfortable with me, and there were some things that he was dealing with that he just needed somebody to talk to about. And so there was one point not so long ago when I visited his city because he just didn't have anyone around him that he could talk through those things with.
Good. Thank you. Hugh.
Specifically referencing God's love, almost everybody we've met in Japan has experienced God's love because there's just so little of it there in the first place, and an expression of love within the culture and society is quite rare. But specifically one guy who already was a believer came to the church in Nirayama for a few years. He was a merchant seaman and had some issues with alcohol and didn't really fit in society, and had kind of church hopped around the area for several years. And if you talk to other people and other pastors, he was quite difficult. But we just welcomed him and loved him and included him in the things that were happening, practically as well, you know, when we were moving stuff around and redecorating, whatever. And he was just so happy to be included and so happy to be part of that family and the impact that it had on his life. And he died suddenly, and we were at the funeral and just talking to other pastors. Their experience was a negative one, that he had been difficult and hard, and we could testify that God had worked in his heart, and it was a positive thing to see that change. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
For me, I think it was my friend Mo Kerry, who I got to know shortly after we came to Papua New Guinea in 2003. And she actually taught me the trade language in those early days, and would have come to my house maybe a couple of times a week. And I just got to know her as a friend. She was a believer, but probably didn't really fully understand grace. And I just really appreciated her just being there, even being part of our kids' lives and helping me with the kids when they were little, and just being able to share the ups and downs of life with her. And when we were back home on a home assignment maybe 10 or 11 years ago, there was a friend from Donegal who gave us a gift of about 5,000, and she and her husband had actually worked in Papua New Guinea for a year. And she said, look, take this money and find a project where it can definitely benefit people in Papua New Guinea. I don't want it to end up being absorbed in some other way and not getting to the people. And as we went back and really just sought the Lord as to how he would have us use that money, the Lord really put Mo Kerry and her husband Johnson on our hearts. And we felt that buying them a water tank would be something immense for them. And because the people in Papua New Guinea, they live in huts with grass roofs. They have earth floors. They don't have any running water in the house or a toilet, usually. And so even elderly people have to walk down into a stream or a river to get water, or to wash their dishes, to wash their clothes. And that can be difficult. So anyway, we were able to float the water tank over, and had a couple of people there to put that in beside their house. And just knowing that that would be able to be used to, not only for their family to be a blessing, for them to have running water in the house, but they also put an outdoor tap and an outdoor shower and used it for the community, so that community folk would be able to come, especially elderly folk, and get water without having to go down to the river to get it. And just seeing how that impacted them, and how many times she said to me, thank you so much for allowing us to have this blessing, and just how that impacted her life and her family's life, just having water, those basic things. And just, I think, seeing their faith growing and their understanding and being involved in our mission, and just through the teaching, the chronological teaching, and seeing how that impacted them in a deep way.
Yeah, we're trying to work out how to stop water coming through this roof. But there's other cultures where you're actually delighted to have water that comes that you can actually use effectively. For those of you who support some of our missionaries, I have this vision of you walking down the streets of heaven someday, and somebody stops you and says, you don't know me, but I think you supported, Matt and Gail, or Paul and Leslie, or Hugh and Heather, or whatever. And because you did that, I was able to hear the gospel. Thank you. And they will give you a hug. So don't underestimate any role you play in this fantastic adventure. Okay, stepping away from a career and secure income and jumping into a context where your income depends on enough of your friends committing to support you regularly can seem quite daunting. Now, let me just It's hard sometimes to understand this. When you show up for a normal job, you show up for a job in a bank somewhere, and you get you get the job, you get a desk, and you get paid at the end of the month. It's kind of normal. You go into mission, you get paid at the end of the month, so long as enough of your friends give enough money to pay you. That'd be a bit weird in a bank, where the manager would say, "You're welcome to a new job. We'll only pay you if enough of your friends give us enough money to pay you." That wouldn't work. They would like it to work, but it doesn't work. But that's how mission works. These guys get paid at the end of the month if enough people give enough for that pay to be able to happen. So what's your experience been of this weird economic structure so far? Let's start with the shortest length of time in this, and then we'll work up.
Yeah, I mean, God's been good. And, well, I guess I'm encouraged because there are a number of people who have said to me, just off their own head, is that a phrase in English? I don't know. But they've just said, "Do you need money? Tell us what you need, and we'll support you." So that's, even when you don't ask, and God prompts someone to do that, that's a lot of encouragement.
Good.
So yeah, I'm trusting that God will be.
You have a good
God
life.
will look after me.
You have a life ahead of you to enjoy this adventure. Great, thank you. Leslie.
Yeah, I think, as I said, we've seen God just be so faithful and just provide over and above for all of our needs. And I think we've been just blown away by his faithfulness. I think he's worked in sometimes seemingly impossible situations just to answer our needs, but also even our unspoken prayers, where we haven't even verbalized those things, but yet the Lord knew there were things that we needed or things that our family needed. And yeah, I think he just has cared for our deepest needs and provided for not only us, but our parents as well. And yeah, it's just been amazing.
That's an important point. Cared for the parents as well. There is a great gap when someone, particularly a younger couple like this, with grandchildren, leave and go to the other side of the world. But this has not caught God by surprise. God doesn't run around heaven and think, "Oh, what am I going to do? Paul and Lester are going to Papua New Guinea and they've got aging parents, blah, blah." No, he is well aware of that, and he will set in place the care and provision for the parents as well as for the couple themselves. Good point there. Hugh.
I didn't have a stable job to walk away from, so in some ways, maybe that made it easier. But yeah, I mean, our experience has been wonderful. There's people in this room that have worked with us for 30 years and have given faithfully every month, and you're as much part of the team in Japan as we are in that sense. And yes, we do need to budget and think about what happens to our money like everyone else, but we have never been in debt, and God has provided, and some of it in very unexpected ways through unexpected people, and it just amazes us that it keeps going. And yeah, as Leslie said, when a particular need comes up, or you're at a different stage in life and you wonder how that's going to pan out and how you're going to afford it, the money's there. Sometimes the money comes before you need it. Sometimes you're praying and thinking, well, how are we going to do this? And it comes in afterwards, and it's just incredible. I wouldn't do it any other way.
Thank you. Good. Yeah, for Phyllis and I also, it's been 50 years, like I said, since we started living in a supported basis. In 1983, we're trying to get a mortgage. The way our finances were structured looked crazy. But Bill Webb of Progressive Building Society, he was the head of it at the time, we talked to him. He said, "Yeah, of course I'll give you a mortgage." He said, "I often give mortgages to people who live in a supported basis, and not one of them has ever defaulted." He said, compared to the rest of the community, the people with so-called normal jobs, where we've hit defaults all the time, we've also had a person supported us every month since September 1975. I think if he added up the amount he's given over the years, it would scare him. But he's not, you lose the distinction between a supporter and a friend. And that's the fantastic thing about this. Living on that regular supported basis, not only does it provide your material financial needs, it creates links and depth of relationship that would not be possible in any other way. So for us, it's been a joy. And like you said, if God said, "Okay, you're starting again, a new plan, you don't have any supporters, I'll just make sure the money all shows up somehow, I would say no, please, no, because of the depth of relationship that comes through those support relationships. Okay, finally and quickly, if you were to give one piece of advice to someone in this room, who thinks God might have some role for them to play in cross-cultural mission, what would that be? Stephen?
Pray lots. Pray lots and be open-minded.
Okay.
Because, well, maybe there are things that you're afraid of. Don't be afraid. God's looking after you.
Thank you.
Just do it. Stephen said earlier that his experience was, he was wondering about, is God really saying this? And I think if you're thinking that, then God probably is saying it. And he will not disappoint you. If you step out, even if you step out and that's all you, and try something and come back and that's all you ever do, that's wonderful. You know, that's going to impact your life for forever.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yeah, I would say the same. Pursue it. I think that God's heart is for missions, and you will not regret it. And I think that, yeah, you know, we don't have any regrets. And as you said, we're just so thankful to have had that opportunity to step out. And we're just thankful, I think, that we didn't get caught in that trap of materialism. Maybe I know that we still have issues with that, but you know, just being able to have that broader perspective of missions and what God has shown us, of what his faithfulness through that, and just to be able to be a part of what he's doing with the skills and abilities that he has given us. I think that is amazing. Yeah, what a huge opportunity. Yeah.
See, the call of God is to go. So to not follow that, you need a really good reason to stay. The call is not to stay and maybe some go. The call was to all the disciples, go and make disciples. So, say you can't walk on the water while you're still in the boat. You know, take a chance, get out there. I mean, I love that story of Peter, where God said to him, okay, do this, come. There were dozens more reasons why he shouldn't do it than why he should do it. But because he understood this is a call of God, I'm going to take a chance here. And he walked on water. Wow. Anybody here done that? No. He didn't try the shallow end of the swimming pool first. You know, he didn't buy the book about how to walk on water. Just the call came, and something in him said, I want to respond to this. So if you have a call of God on your life to think, maybe there is something out there. Maybe there's some people group somewhere in the world that I can have some impact in. Get out of the boat. Try it. See what happens. And we're going to spend a few minutes now just in reflecting on some of this, on how you can be involved. But first of all, thank you to these guys. Really appreciate it. Good job. Stephen goes back to Moldova in 2 days. If you want to talk to him, get him now. Hugh goes back to Japan via England this afternoon. Get him quickly. If you want to chat, Leslie, she's around a bit longer. So what steps can you begin to take to make this work? Well, there's 3 things. Pray, first of all. It's going to come up on the slide. I think good. Thank you. Praying for mission and about mission helps you get into the whole process more. So one thing, join the King's Global Prayer Time. It was this morning. It's the second Sunday of each month, 9 to 9:45. If you're not already on that, please do come along and join that. Talk to Leslie Stewart, who will put you on the list. She sends a list, a thing out on the Friday before that, with updates from all the different missionaries we support. It's a fantastic time, not just praying for our missionaries, but praying with them. So they join the Zoom call as well. So please do that. There's also a response sheet that we're going to hand out here. Somebody has them, I think. And we're going to hand these out. Because you can also sign up to get the missionary prayer update from the people here that we support. So you're going to get some looks there. There's kind of one per family unit, if that's all right. On this is the list of the different people out of Kings that we support in mission. There's one name missing. Stevie Garrett should be on this list. He slipped off it. Sorry about that. Because Stevie works with Young Life to help bring the gospel to teenagers in the peninsula. So feel free to do a write-in for Stevie Garrett. If you don't already hear from some of these people you'd like to, just where it says receive news from, put a tick on that, put your name, your phone number, your email address, and there's a box at the back you can drop this in. You will begin hearing from these people. Some, like Stephen and Leslie, do a lot by WhatsApp group or WhatsApp broadcast. So might be WhatsApp based, might be email based. But if God's just stirring your heart to pray for one of these people or someone else you know on mission, make sure you sign up to do that. Thirdly, visit the Global Village at the Missionary Convention next week. The Global Village is on the evenings. All sorts of different mission organizations. Wander around, take a look at them. Think, what takes my fancy, or what tickles my interest? What would I like to know more about? Who do I want to find out more about? Sign up, get their news sheet. And also sign up for the 30 Cities Frontiers Prayer Initiative. We're praying this year for 30 cities in the Muslim world. Again, talk to Leslie. If you're not already signed up for that, please talk to her in that. So pray. Secondly, give. Start supporting a missionary monthly. These guys on this sheet, they need to get income every month to do the sorts of things you do every month, to buy food, to pay for accommodation, to put petrol in the car, etc. But they're only able to do that if enough people choose to give every month to allow them to do that. Again, on the response sheet, if you're not already supporting one of the missionaries, again, tick the box and Leslie will get back to you about how to do that in more detail. But please do consider this. Again, do a write-in for Stevie if you want to include him in that. Say, we have lived on that basis now ourselves for almost 50 years. And it's just fantastic to know there's a bunch of people committed to what we're doing, understand that what we're doing is important, and want to involve with us on that. Or if you're, and by the way, if you're not quite sure, if you've no preference for which person to give to, choose either Stephen or Emma or both of them. They're starting out in this journey. Emma's still not exactly sure where God will have her, but she will be somewhere. She's still going through that exploring journey. And she needs people at this point to stand with her both through prayer and finances. And Stephen switching from, I'm going for a year, I can cover that myself, through to, I'm now going indefinitely, I need the people around me to make this work. Then those are the two that, if you've no other preference, please choose them. Or if you just would rather the mission committee decided where to use the money, give it to the general mission and they will distribute it where the need is best, where the needs show up. When you get a pay rise, give your missionary a pay rise too. Because they don't have another option of getting a pay rise. So if you're in a job and you get a pay rise, think, okay, I'm going to increase the support of the missionary that we give to by the same amount. It just helps them. Because inflation keeps running up with them too. I remember Hugh and Heather in Japan some years ago got caught in a dreadful currency exchange crash where the pound that we gave one year was worth just 64 pence the next year. So we were still giving them X number of pounds, but they were able to buy 30% less with that. So just to help balance that, try to increase the support you give to missionaries. And give a special gift to recognize birthdays and anniversaries. It's just lovely when you're far away for somebody to recognize you've had a birthday. There's an extra gift. Go out and have a meal. And also pray for a missionary to have a holiday where they serve. Missionaries feel guilty spending money on things they feel are not necessary. But having a break is necessary. And often they don't feel comfortable spending money in the countries they serve to take a break. Give them a gift and specify, this is for you to take a holiday in Papua New Guinea, in Japan. In Moldova? Not sure. Maybe next, or go to Romania. Thirdly, go. Go to the missionary convention. Choose some of the things off the program. Go and listen with an open mind. Say, Lord, please prompt my mind here. Go to the global village. Talk to people Everyone there will have some experience in mission and want to be involved somehow and give you chances to do that. Check out 2 organizations, Global Connections and Oscar. Both of those have, they're sort of a one-shop stop for people in mission. They will have lots of job opportunities in mission that you can take a look at and see what's available. It was Paul and Leslie said when they discovered an opportunity that met the gifting God had given them, I thought, brilliant. So there are opportunities out there that will fit the giftings that God's given you. Take a look at that. Take a career break for a year or 2. Sam Stevenson did that when he was here and worked with SU in the border counties. Take a career break if it's open to you through your employer, and go serve, see what happens. You may end up writing them a letter and say, thank you for the career break, but I'm not coming back. Use your holiday time to visit a missionary. You're going on holiday somewhere anyhow. Go and visit them. Make sure you give them plenty of warning. Don't just show up in their door. And just experience what they experience. See, you can hear what they say, but you can't smell what they smell. You can't eat what they eat here. So go and spend a bit of time with them. Use your gap year to work alongside a missionary. If you're going from university, from school into university, or from university into a job situation, take a year and go and do it. That, again, a number of people in Kings have done that, have gone and sat and learned and experienced what that is like. And then locally, get involved helping asylum seekers. This is particularly for young men. By young, I mean younger than me. It qualifies most here. But we're certainly talking 40s and under. There's a great need for young men to stand shoulder to shoulder with our friends in the Marine Corps. So please, if you're not already involved in that, that's a cross-cultural thing right here on our doorstep. So talk to Peter and Lynn about that. Peter put out an email about that during the week that you might have seen. Or talk to John Crone as well, who's a permanent fixture, but not quite as young as we need some other people to be. So please do that. Lastly, by the way, that response sheet, please fill it in. We're going to take a minute or two now. If you don't have a pen, there's pens at the table at the back that you can fill in. So after I do this, why this is important, we're going to take 1 minute for you to think through that, reflect on it, and see if you can fill it in. You may need to talk to a spouse to go home and pray about it. That's fine. Therefore, bring it back next week. This is a great time to just review and reflect on your own involvement in mission. So why is this important? Habakkuk 2:14 gives us what I would say is God's agenda for this earth. The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. There's various passages in Scripture, present tense, but the earth is filled with His glory. This is a future tense, will be filled with the knowledge of His glory. These folk here that were up here, their job is not to bring God's glory somewhere. It's already there. Their job is to help people understand the knowledge of the glory that they're walking through all the time. That's why this is important. People walking the streets of Papua New Guinea, of Moldova, of Japan, and every other country represented on this list are walking through God's glory, but they don't know it. And they're going to a lost eternity unless someone helps them understand the knowledge of that glory. This is too important a thing to miss. Yes, the same is true in Bangor, but there's lots of people in Bangor to tell them. In Bangor, you find the church you like. In Japan, you like the church you find. So let's make sure people have more opportunities. Let's take 1 minute now, is all I'm going to give you, to put your name, phone number, email address, and if you're already able to respond, fill that form out, and then at the end, put it in a bucket at the back. And if not, then at least consider it now for a minute, then take it home and bring it back next week. And then I'm going to hand over to Sam.